first music cue of the night. Yeah, the wedding ring tan on the fingers. This piece is called White Noise in the original game, and the new one it's White Noise Actual Noise. Uses the keyboards from the original. They've added orchestrations, like I'm pretty sure that's a mandolin in the background. And some additional strings. Mandolin's a trademark instrument for the series. It's what you hear at the beginning of the original Silent Hill theme.
Could you really be in this town?
Gorgeous, gorgeous graphics. Couldn't be happier. And coming up is possibly my favorite piece of music in the game, is the Promise theme. I like to think of it as James's theme, or James and Mary's theme, and it comes up again and again in the game.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place, waiting for you.
I got a letter. The name on the envelope said Mary. My wife's name. It's ridiculous. Couldn't possibly be true. That's what I keep telling myself. Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago. So then why am I looking for her? Our special place. What could she mean? This whole town was our special place. Could Mary really be here? Is she really alive? Waiting for me?
And that is our opening. And speaking of... Oh, hold on. We're good. I gotta stop doing that. Speaking of waiting for me. What is that? Am I wearing my Hadestown Wait For Me t-shirt? Everything is intentional. And I am intentionally a huge dork. Anyway. So many things I could say about that piece of music. Like I said before, Promise is one of the main themes in the game, and it comes up again later in a scene with a character named Angela that I'm going to talk about more during that scene, why it's used there, because that was a revelation for me that came from actually playing the remake, that I then went back to the original and was like, wait, it's here too. No, this was intentional. But just to talk about Promise as a piece of music, let's switch over to the little piano demos thing. So set that up like that. Promise in the entire Silent Hill series, not just Silent Hill 2, is to me the only piece of music that really feels like... I kept trying to figure out the best word to explain that, but it feels bittersweet. So many of the pieces of music in this game are dark and melancholy and sad and disturbing in some ways, and there's a lot to be said about how Akira Yamaoka constructs that stuff. But talking about specifically about Promise, it feels heartfelt. It feels romantic in certain ways, and I think that is incredibly intentional. The chord progression that we have playing there on the acoustic guitar, that boom doo doo, that uh, little kind of twangy instrument is I'm gonna drop that down. A minor, F, C, and G. The way that's articulated on the guitar, it doesn't use all the notes that I was playing, but that's the relationship between those chords. Um, Please tell me if I'm saying anything in terms of music terminology that you want explained further. I'm going to try and figure out the simplest, most concise ways to say things, but I don't know what people don't know. So let me know if you're a complete layperson to music, or if you are someone who's deep in that music theory and you're like, Ian, I think you may actually have that slightly incorrect. It's actually A minor and then F with slash A chord and F with the A in the bass. I know, my brain is already thinking about it. But as I was just playing the block chords of it, that is a very common chord progression that you hear in so much music. If you've ever watched like the Axis of Awesome video or like Pachelbel's rant or whatever, it's there's a thing that I'll talk about with music where it's chord relationships. Like there are a bunch of different keys you can play things in, and there are a bunch of different chords that you can play in those keys. But at the end of the day, the thing to remember is it's all mathematical. So we're in the key of A minor with this piece. And if we're starting on A, we're going up, and we assign a number to each note of the 8-note scale. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we're back to 1. We can assign numbers to the chords that are built on those numbers of the scale, those scale degrees, as they're called in music theory. So if A is 1, A minor, F would be 6, and then C is 3, and then G is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Does that all make sense? One of the things that can help you out with paying attention to that is keeping an eye on the lowest note. That is usually where our names for chords come from. So we've got 1, 6, 3, 7. And again, that's a very common chord progression. I'm trying to, of course, my mind's going to blank on every single thing. Actually, you want to know what the first thing that popped into my head was? Cleo, you'll get a kick out of this. The Gandalf death music. Same chord progression. It's probably in a different key, but if it was in D minor, say, we could still play it in that key and it would have the same mathematical relationship. Yeah. So yeah, just to talk a little bit more about the math stuff. If we're in D minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, we can do that same thing. 1, 6, 3, 7. It's the same 4 numbers. Going through a lot of stuff right now. Is all of that making sense to everyone? It's how a composer can use the same theme over and over and over again in a score, and it doesn't get old because they can play it in a different key, or they can speed it up or slow it down, or they can tweak a single note so that it sounds a little different, or they can have a melody with a different chord progression underneath it. That is going to come into play when we hear this theme again later on in the scene with Angela, because the more potentially more famous version of Promise, because it was used as like a main theme in the movie, is Promise Reprise, and that one isn't in A minor but G minor, but we can still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. But that was just going over the first chord progression. There's a second chord progression in there that it does have in common with the Reprise, which is if we were to play that in A minor, it would be. We'll get more into that later. But to go back to the original chord progression, I think the reason that Akira Yamaoka uses this chord progression, this very familiar chord progression, for this main romantic emotional theme for the main character, is because it's so familiar. It's a tool that he can use to make the audience on a subliminal level feel like, oh, this is something that is supposed to feel familiar and warm. It's supposed to feel like home. Going back to Lord of the Rings examples, Howard Shore does something similar with the Hobbiton theme. The whole those chords. Again, Pachelbel chords, Axis of Awesome, all that stuff. And also, if we were to start on this chord of that progression, we get again the Gondorf Death chords, the main theme from Promise. Yeah, hold on. It's all connected. But yeah, I think in a lot of cases, composers use very familiar chord progressions, very familiar melodic styles to convey that sense of like, hey, here's a place of home, a place that feels natural to us, a place that will make people feel like we're back in an emotional center. Particularly in a game like this, where we're going to go far away from that emotional center in terms of story and music, and it's a horror game, so they're trying to find ways to unsettle you. And I'm going to talk more about the ways that Akira Yamaoka likes to do that as we get back into the game. We are 45 minutes into this, and we are not past the first scene, but you know what? That's fine. We're here to talk about music and lore, and this is going to be a long playthrough. Buckle up. And let's switch back over to... Before we get back into the game, or like we can have this conversation as we get back into the game. Does anyone have any questions about anything I just talked about? Anything they want to see on the keyboard again, or do we want to just get back into it? I didn't talk about the instrumentation at all. Cleo has asked me before and brought up several times in her own posts, Ian, how they make that guitar jingle. You make it so in the background of those pieces I was talking about, hearing a mandolin, which is a string instrument like a guitar that has a very particular sound, and oftentimes is played with a technique called tremolo picking, which is essentially like plucking the same string over and over and over again. It's what gives the original Silent Hill theme that very creepy and since then Akira Yamaoka has used it to be like an aesthetic thing he incorporates into a lot of the Silent Hill soundtracks. It's sort of like, hey, you hear that tremolo picking on the mandolin? We're back in Silent Hill. And so we are. Let's actually do things. Oh man, it's been a while since I played this. Okay, yeah, that's run. Can't go into the women's restroom. Yeah, so tremolo picking it, you hear it in like a lot of like traditional Italian music uses mandolin with tremolo picking and that sort of thing. Uh, or am I thinking Italian or French? French music. A lot of folk music uses mandolin and tremolo picking on the mandolin. But you know where else you hear tremolo picking? Metal. You ever hear a metal guitarist just go? That's him doing tremolo picking on an electric guitar. Uh, so yeah, there's a little thing to add to your vocabulary. I'm so sorry, Cleo. I did remember to start recording the video right before the game started, so I will be uploading these videos. Oh, I'm so sorry. I will be uploading these videos on YouTube, hopefully without any technical issues, after the stream. Don't know if it'll be immediately after the stream or perhaps like the next day, later on in the week. We'll figure out a rhythm of it that works for me. Um, but yeah, tremolo picking. It's a fun thing. Okay. This is our map of South Vale, this first area. The first item I need for the Stillness ending, I believe, is in a car on Wiltsey Road, and it's before you even get the first like regular weapon, which is why you need to be on New Game Plus, because New Game Plus you get the chainsaw before you get to Wiltsey Road. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to break into that car. I wonder if the item's in that car on regular game, but you just can't get to it because you can't break the window. Curious. But yeah, the opening of this game, we're just going to be taking a long, leisurely walk. I can probably turn... Well, I haven't played this in a few weeks. Maybe I do want the tutorial. Look at how gorgeous this game is. It looks so good. It's so friggin' good. Going back to the original and seeing just the, like Google image search that like they used for the background of Toluca Lake in the original is kind of goofy, but it has its own quaint charm. Over here we've got the main road into town that is blocked off. This is all recreated very faithfully from the original game, including the missing letters. Got the signs to Old Silent Hill, Paleville, Brams. Brams is supposedly 265 miles away, which I always thought Brams was just like a town over. But if you've ever driven like on the highway and driven 265 miles, that's a long ways away. And yet, like from Sybil Bennett from the original game, she's supposed to be a cop from Brams. That's the way they pronounce it in the movie, so that's the way I'm pronouncing it. I think they pronounce it that way in the game too. But yeah, like even just thinking about it, in the U.S. we drive, like most highways are 60, 65 miles per hour, 70. So 265, that's several hours of driving. Yeah, Silent Hill is apparently in Texas for that distance so casually crossed. um, and it starts the unsettling atmosphere. We got mostly noise in the soundtrack with some like I really should have looked this up before I started playing, but there's a particular like device. I hesitate to call it an instrument, although I suppose it is technically an instrument. Oh, what was that? There's an instrument that they use on tons of horror stuff that like gives you that shing, like kind of shing noise that is so creepy. And here we have our first item of the New Game Plus that shows us how to get the items for another ending that I may try to get for this playthrough, the Rebirth Ending. Grave truths lost to the mind shall flow white into a void chalice, so the rite of red shall commence. So this is referring to 4 items that you need to pick up over the course of the game if you want to get the Rebirth Ending. And there should be a way I can get those items and then save Scum to get that and the Stillness Ending if I end up wanting to do that towards the end. But yeah, very esoteric. It doesn't tell you where to get these items, just that you need to get them. And last playthrough, I actually was able to pick up basically all of the items, but I missed the very first one in the graveyard. Remind me of says, fun fact about Silent Hill's geographical location. Downpour gives it the zip code of 04107, which belongs to a real town in Maine called Cape Elizabeth, just outside the greater Portland area. I live in said area and think about that every time the fog rolls in. Ha! Perfectly normal. Ah, yes, this fog. The other thing I enjoy about another game in the Silent Hill series is in Silent Hill Shattered Memories, the Wii reimagining of the original Silent Hill game. I've still got those friggin' frame rate issues. I know that they've released patches and stuff, but the patches don't seem to have solved the frame rate issues for me, so if anyone knows how to fix that, please let me know. But in Silent Hill Shattered Memories, as you're exploring the beginning of that game, you walk through a junkyard and you see a sign that says, like, I think it says, like, Rochester, however many miles away, Syracuse, however many miles away, and me being from Syracuse, I'm like, this game places Silent Hill solidly in the state of New York. More little creepy noises. Look at the friggin' puddles in this game. They look so real. I also just love the vibes of this. Oh, that is definitely a creature of some sort. But yeah, like, I don't know if any of you have watched the videos on YouTube that remove the fog, but walking through this area without fog just reminds me of walking through the Adirondacks in upstate New York, so that's fun too. And we get our first save spot. With James staring weirdly into the camera. You can see all my previous saves. You know what? I am going to start. Oh, man, do I really want to overwrite my original playthrough at all? I mean, I can't be sentimental about this. You know what? I'll start with this. This was from my last playthrough. Yes. One of the things that I was talking to Cleo about in emails earlier was how there's this interesting thing that, like, they did with older games, but has been I feel like a common occurrence in more contemporary games too, where they try to, like, contextualize the gameplay elements in the narrative. So, like, when we leave,
It's like someone's groping around my skull.
it would be very easy for them to just, like, James to not have a reaction to that, but for them to give James a reaction to the save spot is very interesting. Another thing we'll be talking about with this is how the remake in particular seems to contextualize a highly controversial theory in the Silent Hill fandom, if you're ever on the Reddit or forums. A theory that James is experiencing a time loop, and that every playthrough of this game is James going through it over and over again. There are a lot of details to suggest that this is real. There are a lot of ways you can argue, well, it might be one interpretation, but it's also possible that that isn't true. I think one of the best things about this game is that it doesn't it doesn't, when it comes to, like, that sort of stuff, it very much leaves it open to interpretation. So whatever resonates most with you, I think that's fine. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna pause here for a moment to talk about another piece of music we're about to do. This is our first scene with Angela, and this is not the one I was talking about before, but it introduces what I think of as Angela's theme. There may be arguments against this, but I'll talk a little bit about why I think this particular melody is Angela's theme. Um, and you're going to hear it right at the beginning of the scene, and you're going to hear it a few times throughout. And what key is it in? Hold on. Let me think of it. Is it in G minor? No, I might have this wrong. Started playing notes now. I've lost the. I've got pretty good relative pitch, and I can recall memories. I don't have perfect pitch though. I can't just pick out a note out of the air. Yeah, we'll hear it, and then I'll play it for you again after the scene. Yeah, let's enter the graveyard. Something to pay attention to. Look at Angela's fingernails. And there's our melody.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was just...
Hey, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost.
Lost?
Yeah, I'm looking for Silent Hill. Is this the right way?
Yeah. It's hard to see with the fog, but
Ah,
there's only the one road.
frame rate
Don't miss
issues.
it. But I think you should stay away. This town, there's something wrong with it. And it's not just the fog either.
Is it dangerous?
There's the melody again.
Maybe. It's kind of hard to explain, but
I'll be careful.
I'm not lying.
No, I believe you. It's just... I guess I don't really care if it's dangerous or not. I'm going either way.
But why?
I'm looking for
There's the melody again.
someone. Someone very important to me.
Me too. I'm looking for my mama. I mean, my mother. It's been so long since I've seen her. I thought my father and brother were here, but I can't find them either. I'm sorry, it's not your problem.
No, I hope you find them.
Yeah, you too.
Okay. Bunch of things I want to talk about with that scene before getting into the music. One, I love the voice actors for the remake, and the mocap and like facial capture is just so friggin' good. They get like these little micro expressions. The actors feel like real human beings, which I appreciate. There are a lot of detractors from that, saying like, it's not Lynchy enough. I love David Lynch. I also love this style of acting. And I think a lot of the Lynchian aspect of the original game, there was a lot of it that was intentional, but with some of the acting, it may have just been, particularly with James's voice actors, some maybe not the greatest voice acting. But I mentioned Angela's fingernails, which, watching the scene like this, I don't know if there are really any good moments to get an up close look at them, but if you like zoom in on screenshots of that scene, Angela's fingernails look like she's been biting them. That's such a like little small, like such a minute level of detail, and it's like right from the beginning they are Bloober team were being so they were considering every detail and thinking about how can we make this intentional, how can we make this convey something, and to get a little bit into Angela's story, Angela is again major spoilers coming up. Angela is a victim of sexual abuse at the hands of her father and her brother, and for them to have little details that convey that like this is a woman who has gone through a lot and is mentally in a place of like she's not in the healthiest place. So having little details like the nail biting, the way that she holds herself, the way that she responds to James, or the way that she pulls back from him or acts in regards to him. There's so much care put into that performance and the way that they handle that story, and I will never stop praising them for it because they've done such an excellent job with honoring a very delicate subject matter. Fool Errant. I always is it Errant? Fool Errant. I think that's how it's pronounced. Says I don't think the Lynchian would have been well received this time. Original game we were sort of used to a stilted dub slash animation at the time, and it just leaned into it. Yeah, I think that's part of it too. Like that, like this game, the original game came out in like 2001, and it was a lot less common for video games to have really good voice acting. Like the only thing I can think off the top of my head is like the StarCraft games, which it was funny. I was talking to someone about that at work the other day, and how I'll get to the next comment. I got to complete thoughts and then look at the chat. A friend of mine was talking at work the other day about how at this time when the Silent Hill 2 came out and like the StarCraft games were coming out, RTSs were kind of the place where you got those deep, like involved stories. Like Resident Evil had story. I'm gonna be upfront. I didn't play any of the original Resident Evil games. Yeah, Errant, like Errant. Okay, thank you. I always think back to the cast recording of Man of La Mancha in my head. Don Quixote, the Knight Errant. Um, but yeah, at the time that this game came out, a lot of the like more serious storytelling was happening in the RTS world rather than in like first-person shooters or any other places. Although you did get that from time to time. I mean, you do have like the Jedi Knight games. I'm trying to remember when Halo came out. I was not a Halo kid. I think it was like early 2000s because that's when the Xbox came out, around the same time as PlayStation 2, original console that Silent Hill 2 was on. But yeah, this was it's so interesting to think about the development of video games. But let's not get stuck on that because we're an hour into this. I'm actually pretty happy with where we are in the game, all things considered, and how much I hope that this format for this playthrough is enjoyable. Getting into like this is going to be a longer playthrough, but I'm going to be doing about 2 to 3 hours every other Wednesday until the game is done. And I think taking it at this casual pace, just like going through stuff as we hit it, I think that's fine. If I want to edit it in the future, I can always do that with videos. But anyway, yeah, delicate subject matter in this game, and Angela is an incredibly written character, incredibly acted. The actress for the remake is Gianna Keel, and I think she did an incredible job. I think she and Luke Roberts in particular have some incredible chemistry in this game when it comes to just the relationship between these two characters and the way that they play off of each other. The music, before I forget, let's go back to the piano setup. So that melody that I kept pointing out throughout the scene, Oh, we're in F. I got it right on the first try. Sweet. We're in F minor. That's not the direction I wanted to put the octaves. I'm using a, like, 3-octave MIDI keyboard, and so I keep having to press the up and down octave buttons to get in the octave that I want to be in. This only makes sense to anyone who's familiar with playing an electronic keyboard, but whatever. That is the melody that you hear come up so often in this piece of music. In the remake, what is it called in the remake? I would bring up the spot of, hold on, I can bring it up on my phone. If I brought it up on the computer, then it would screw up my whole display here. Yeah, in the original, this piece of music is called Forest, and in the remake, it's called What Lurks in the Forest. There are a lot of pieces that were re-recorded for the remake that are different in certain ways from their counterparts in the original soundtrack, and so they either gave them slightly different names, like What Lurks in the Forest, or they just put 2024 in parentheses to distinguish them from the original soundtrack. And here's the thing about this melody. That is the way that it is played. It's played on a Rhodes piano tone, which is an electronic keyboard. It sounds like a Rhodes piano to me. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't that, or some sort of Rhodes like sample patched. But hearing it on a regular piano tone, you can probably guess where I'm going with this and see where the connections are if you have played Silent Hill 2 before, or if you've listened to the soundtrack before. There's a scene later in the game with Angela and James where the piece Promise Reprise plays, and that is that famous piece that I was talking about before, the one that starts off with a... And we're in G minor for this. But since everything's mathematical, there's that melody that we just heard. We heard it in F minor on the Rhodes piano with just kind of a loose orchestration and chord progression in the background. I think it kind of goes back and forth between like F minor, D flat, and E flat, just to give this very melancholy vibe. And then they bring that melody back in G minor for Promise Reprise. And there's the reason I'm bringing this up specifically is I, for years, have wondered why Promise Reprise plays in that scene with Angela and James later. Because Promise, as I mentioned before, I've always thought, oh, that's James and Mary's theme. Why is it playing in the scene with Angela? And then I realized we've got, in the original Promise theme, we have the that then morphs into and that's all in A minor. In Promise Reprise, in G minor, we get that same chord progression that we first heard in Promise. I like to think of that as like the chorus, because in the original rock version it's kind of structured in a verse-chorus format. So you got the as the verse, and then you got the as the chorus. So we're using the chorus chords from Promise, but now we've got this melody that was introduced in Forest, which is the rest of it isn't there, but just that. And I think there are probably reasons to believe other than what I'm about to say, but I think that melody is Angela's theme. And so the reason Promise Reprise is written and played that way during that scene with James and Angela later is because we've got the James chord progression. And then we've got the Angela melody. And it makes sense for those both be there in a scene where both those characters are. For years, I was like, why is this piece played this way in this scene? Why is it called Promise Reprise? And I think that's why. And the reason I'm convinced that that is Angela's theme is, one, because it's introduced in the first scene that we have with her, but also, for anyone who's played Silent Hill 4, you may be familiar with a piece called Room of Angel. There's also a piece on the Silent Hill 2 soundtrack called Angel's Thanatos. I have always associated those pieces with Angela because there are a few places where when they're naming the songs on the soundtrack, they kind of are just left of center of the character name. Like we have Magdalene, which we'll talk about later, plays after Maria dies in the hospital. More spoilers. And I've always thought, and particularly in the remake, Magdalene becomes like a theme for Mary. Mary Magdalene, there's the association. Angel, I've always thought of as Angela's theme. Room of Angel is a song from Silent Hill 4, which none of these characters are present in it. James's dad is the superintendent, but that's a whole other thing. But there are songs on the soundtrack that seem to harken back to Silent Hill 2. There's a song called Waiting for You that is clearly directly connected to the whole Waiting for You from Mary's letter. And I think they took the opportunity to find an overlap between the story of Silent Hill 4 and Silent Hill 2 so they could kind of have their cake and eat it too. It's like, oh, now we're using Mary Elizabeth McGlynn on vocals. Let's write some songs for Silent Hill 2, even though this isn't the Silent Hill 2 game. But we can tie them into Silent Hill 4 by making references to rooms and stuff. Room of Angel, I think, lyrically applies to both Angela in this game and Walter Sullivan, the serial killer you learn about in this game who becomes the main antagonist in Silent Hill 4. And what is the main melody to the chorus of Room of Angel? We've got Angela's melody again. If there are any Silent Hill fans in the chat, hopefully that was a cool little musical Easter egg that I introduced you to. Might bring it up again when we actually get to Promise Reprise, but yeah. Figured we're here, we've been introduced to both themes, let's talk about it now. And now that we've talked about it, let's get back into the game. Again, if anyone has any questions about this music or any other things that I haven't been talking about, whether it's a story or music or whatever, or hey Ian, you were talking about chord progressions and numbers before, can you talk about part of that again because I didn't quite catch it? Let me know. We're going at a leisurely pace. At this point, I've resigned myself to at least be playing this until like July, so we'll see how quickly we move through things. And I imagine as we get deeper into the game and as we like get past more of the like groundwork laying for the music and lore stuff, then there'll be these little interstitial things will be less frequent and less involved. Anyway, like I was saying before, Gianna Keel, incredible.
Did you want anything else?
No, it's just this fog. Does it seem unsettling to you?
I guess.
I'll leave you alone, Angela. So the first item of the Rebirth Ending is somewhere around here. I think it's actually closer to the water. Maybe. Aha! There it is. The Crimson Ceremony. proud fragrance of life which flies towards the heart. O cup which brims with the whitest of wine, it is in thee that all begins. I love how friggin' dramatic and arcane some of the text in this game is. It's so great. It is in thee that all begins. So yeah, the Rebirth Ending is all about James finding these items and potentially using them to try and bring back Mary. Can he do it? Who knows? We'll see when we get to that ending, if we get there. Why am I being all coy about this? I said this was going to be a full spoiler stream. We'll talk more about it when we get there. We don't need to get into it right now. Another cool little Easter egg. All have sinned and fall short of God's glory. My friend Vic has been playing this game for the first time, and he sent me a screenshot of that, and it followed by the gif of Robert Downey Jr. in the original Avengers going like, thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. It's really interesting also to think about this game when it comes to like the more religious and spiritual aspects. I was raised Catholic. I still consider myself a Christian. I am also a gay man, so you can imagine that I may have some disagreements with the Catholic Church. But it's interesting looking at this game in the context of like, this is a game made by a Japanese team of developers, but it takes place in America, and it is kind of doing a riff on American occultism and like religious fanaticism and a bunch of other stuff. And so there's a lot of Christian imagery in the game, but because it's coming from an Eastern developer, there are also a lot of like themes found in Eastern religions that are present in the game. And we can hear our buddy the chainsaw. The chainsaw has everything to do with Eastern religions. Oh, Cleo, you said something in the chat. Apparently, if you pick up all 4 rebirth items, you automatically get that ending, so I'm having to be careful with that. Yeah, so I think the point of no return with both the rebirth and stillness endings is in the hotel. There's an item that you grab in the hotel for each of the endings, and if you grab the last rebirth item, it'll trump all the regular endings. And if you grab the last stillness item, I think it trumps even the rebirth ending. So, if I'm remembering reading that correctly. So, shouldn't have to worry about that until we get there. And we've got more creepy noises on the soundtrack. So, they released 2 soundtracks for the remake. One of them is like the regular official soundtrack, and the other is the like extended edition. I've listened to all of both, and the extended edition is a bunch of creepy music. You do not need to listen to it for the sake of the stream if you were listening for stuff. It's got a lot of cool stuff on it, but for me it's like this is just a way for them to show off all the work they did for this game. And also a way for me, if I want some creepy music for my next D&D session, to just have something I can throw on to shuffle on Spotify. There it is. What does it say on the side? Oh, it says Blue Svarna, I think, as in like a combination of Blueber and Husqvarna. That's the actual brand, isn't it? Yeah. If you stand still while holding the chainsaw long enough, the James will do a particular animation. Let me see if I can make it happen. A particular animation that can actually like stall you out at some points, which is why I got really frustrated with the chainsaw at certain points during the my second playthrough. I guess since there aren't any enemies nearby, he won't keep it out for very long. In this barn is another Easter egg that you can only find if you mod the game and are able to use break the camera away from James's model. A bit of outside of game Silent Hill history. Silent Hill Ranch was in the original game, and then when they did the HD collection in 2012, 2013, they were working from an alpha version of the game, which is why a lot of people, when they talk about the HD collection, they're like, it is terrible. Which I've also heard people are like, it's fine. But one of the things that people do reference often is this sign, because in the HD collection version of Silent Hill 2, the font that they used for the Silent Hill Ranch sign was, in fact, Comic Sans, our old friend. And if you get a camera mod for this game and go into that barn over there, you will find a sign with Silent Hill Ranch on it in Comic Sans, which is just friggin' hilarious, and I love Bloober Team for doing that. Yeah, so now I need to keep an eye out for that car I need to break into. Also, I didn't... there were a few comments in the chat that I didn't address earlier, so let me go back to that real quick. Yeah, we were talking about the Lynchian stuff. Yeah, that was something I was going to bring up. Thank you for reminding me, Fool Errant. Playing the game the first time, I don't know if it's just because of the actress who played Angela, but it wasn't until I played the remake and the way that Gianna Keel delivers that line of, I also thought my father and brother were here, but I can't seem to find them. When I played the original game, I thought she was just saying, like, oh, they're also here in town. But playing the remake and knowing what the fate of those characters were, I was like, oh shit, she's totally talking about here in the cemetery. And if you don't know that going into the game, I wonder if you recognize it. And it's like, that was the first time in the remake where I was like, oh, they've put so much thought and care into the way that they are directing the game, the way that they're acting the game. I have nothing but praise for the voice actors and the direction in this game. Yeah, and Kenny, you were saying the StarCraft Brood War cast is still incredible. Definitely agree with you there. Yeah, Kenny House Light, he's got his own stream on Twitch, actually, if you want to throw him a follow. He's been playing... I can never remember what you're playing during the week. I know you've been playing Hearthstone because they added StarCraft cards to that. But he's also been doing StarCraft Saturday, where almost every Saturday he's been playing through the original StarCraft and Brood War, and he just finished Brood War this past Saturday. So I think he's taken a week or two off, and then he's going to be starting up with StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty, the next game in the series. If you're interested in any of those games, feel free to drop him a follow and make sure you have notifications turned on so that you can see when he's playing. Kenny, if you want to mention like when you're usually playing, I can't remember if it's like 7 to 10 or later or whatever, but feel free to throw that in the chat so that people know when to find you doing that stuff. But yeah, Kenny, one of my oldest friends, go throw him a follow. Anyway, I need some water. I've been doing all this talking. Yeah, 7:30 to 9:30, or 10 on Saturdays. Yeah, no problem, man. It's been so much fun watching him go through the original StarCraft, and so nostalgic. There's so many like lines in that game that are so iconic to me. Um, yeah, so now that I have the chainsaw, I can actually go back to this other truck and yeah, I wonder. No, you probably can't go all the way back to the parking lot, but maybe. No, I'm not going to do that. It'd be funny if you could get all the way back to James's car and just break the windows open, and that would be insane if you could do that and then find Mary's body in the back seat. Because, oh yeah, another big spoiler: Mary's body is in the back seat of James's car. He drove her body here to Silent Hill, which kind of lends itself to this thought that, like, maybe his whole intent before he had that psychogenic amnesiac break was to drive into the lake with her body in the car and kind of like go down together. Can't believe I didn't talk about that when we were in the parking lot. I thought about it, and my natural instincts. Hey, Lag Time Podcast. That's Andy there, isn't he? How are you doing, man? How's your evening going? Um, but yeah, so many details in this game, and like I keep praising Bloober Team for a lot of the details, but a lot of the stuff was in the original too. The original Team Silent put a lot of heart and care into that game, and the reason that Bloober Team this remake is so good is because Bloober Team was working with such an incredible foundation. Hearing double audio from the mic and some other source. Is it because it's too close to my headset? Is it coming through the webcam? Hold on, let me see if I can troubleshoot that. Oh yeah, I have two mics on. Whoops. Okay, that should fix it. Are we good now? We're back to single audio. Wow, I'm gonna be watching the video back and like, crap, why didn't I notice that? How are we doing now? I know I have to wait. There's a little bit of delay between video and the chat. Oh, and I never changed back to the regular video game overlay. Sorry. Again, it's all jazz. We're just we're vibing. We're going with the flow. We're doing our best. What was I even talking about? Yeah, the original Silent Hill 2 is genuinely for all its flaws, a masterpiece, and it's because it has this story at the center of it. Okay, as long as it wasn't a big issue, definitely feel free to let me know if there are any audio issues like that in the future. I will only briefly be embarrassed. I would rather be embarrassed briefly and fix the audio properly than to watch a VOD later and be like, crap, why didn't anyone say anything? But also, that's not your responsibility, so do what you like. Live your own life. Went to town to get the window fixed. Spare keys in the drawer. Ooh, has your connection finally settled? So yeah, another thing I love about this game is how good they are at making all of the like environmental storytelling and all of the memos and stuff
Anyone
you
in here?
find feel natural while also still like giving you the gameplay information that you need to get. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into town and we see more of the memos that like are pointing you in the direction of certain puzzles, but also have story relevance and resonance. Okay. Is there anything in here? mean, I get it why there's not something in every interactive item object, but no. Again, you don't have to apologize. Yotare 256. Um, that was more just me saying, like, if you guys notice something, feel free to say so. It is also not your responsibility. I'm the one running the stream, and I gotta be conscientious about that stuff. I just forgot that the on a lot of these scenes, I was using a different microphone, and then I put in the headset mic as a new one, so I forgot to take off the old microphone. um, yeah. I'm so sorry, Cleo. Hopefully you'll be able to watch the VOD and still enjoy that. But yeah, like, you want to be able to interact with the live feed. Yes, drawers, we have to experience disappointment. In this game, in Resident Evil 7 and 8. So now we got our key for this door. We've got a sign up here for Pete's Bolorama, where in the original game you meet Eddie eating pizza with a very iconic line that I will leave for when we reach there. So yeah, all this little stuff. Yeah, you're dealing with stream issues, Cleo. I'm dealing with frame rate issues. We're all in this technological wonderland. What am I saying? I don't know. Oh, and coming up here we have our first glimpse of the past. And I very much appreciate you being here for moral support. So these are interactive spaces throughout the game that are moments from the original Silent Hill 2 that they have repurposed, or like the stuff that you would have found here you find in a different place in the remake. This spot in the original game was actually in town, and it was where you met your first monster, the lying figure, and where you got your first weapon. That takes place in a different place in the remake. It takes place inside a house, and so, but they still are paying tribute to that moment here with this visual moment that you can interact with. And there are a bunch of these throughout the game. There are a few achievements that I'm trying to go for with this playthrough. One of them I still haven't gotten is getting all the notes. One of them I don't think I've gotten all the glimpses of the past. I'm also going to try and go for the no radio, which I tried to do last playthrough, but I guess I didn't. I guess when you pick up the radio, that is literally, once you have it in your inventory, you have to go into your inventory and manually turn it off, or else I think specifically the walkthrough I was looking at was saying, like, you have to turn it off before you interact with the first enemy, which literally happens right after you get the radio. So I guess I just gotta go into my inventory as I'm in the examine, investigate screen. I don't know. We'll see. One of the things I do kind of miss from the original game is the fixed camera angles. They did add a little bit of like cinematic vibe, a little bit of weirdness. I bring it up now because I remember this section specifically having some interesting fixed camera angles, but also I don't hate the over the shoulder camera angles, because it also means like it's a lot easier to see things that you want to see properly. Oh, is this it? I think this might be the first item for the Stillness ending. The Key of Sorrow. It's got some little occult imagery on there and such. Alright. We're on our way. It's also got 3 circles on it, which I think this symbol is actually meant to be a reference to the halo of the sun, which wasn't introduced until Silent Hill 3, but is a symbol associated with the Order, the cult in Silent Hill, and their everything to do with them. Which makes me interested. I'll be thinking about. I'll have that in the back of my mind as I'm thinking about how these items contribute to the Stillness ending and what that might mean. That's one of the fun things for me, even as a veteran, is the Stillness ending and the Bliss ending were completely new to me. I played the Bliss ending in my previous playthrough. I might grab it for this and play it on stream, because it's literally just one item that you need to grab. But the Stillness ending, I have watched it once or twice, but once I realized, oh, I want to stream that one, I have avoided it, because I really want to play this playthrough as if, like, oh, this is the story that leads to that ending. Amat Yulter says, I understand the rationale of item management limitations, but it is objectively funny that you need a chainsaw to break a car window. Yeah, it's kind of hilarious. How does that factor into the story? Ah, yes, the chainsaw is important for James's revelation of... Got our fog. It's a pretty cool fog. We've got our corn that so many people, I feel like, expect something to jump out at them from there. In the original game, there's a part later where two mannequins do just get, like, flung out of a cornfield at you, and they reference that in the remake. I'll try to remember to talk about it when we get there. The road is blocked off. Road work ahead. Now everyone has made that same joke. I'm pretty sure... I watched Jacksepticeye's playthrough, and I think he made that reference as well. The Road Runner. What is this place? Is that like a little... And then he just tucks that chainsaw right back in his jacket. Yeah. What is it called? Hammer space? That's a term that people use for, like, when a character puts an item in a space that doesn't exist, or shouldn't exist. I can't remember where I got that name from. Of course, me being an Animorphs fan, I would love to be like, oh, they're putting it into Z space. Zero space. Do I have any Animorphs fans in the chat? We marry few. Ah, yes. A little cutscene to make sure the player does not miss the map. Even in the original, I really appreciated how, like, they mark off places on the map for you, so that you don't have to have, like, a running, like, sketch on a scrap piece of paper, but also that it looks like, oh, James has, like, a red marker on him and he's the one actually writing the stuff in. And I also really appreciate that in the remake there is an animation of him writing on the map every time one of those moments happens. So yeah, I know we need to go that way. Actually no, that is the opposite of the way that we need to go. Alright. Wait, I was looking. Oh, that's the direction that James is pointed, not the camera. See, even happens to me, Cleo, the camera versus model situation. But yeah, this will lead us to the bounds of the world. And as any good adventure gamer knows, you want to try to explore the space before moving on. Yeah, I'm playing with a game controller rather than the keyboard and mouse, which makes a lot of this stuff easier, but then other things potentially slightly harder. Now there's a glimpse of the past coming up that I have missed on both playthroughs. It's the one with James's body against like a wall, and I really need to be. I'm gonna try and make sure that I hit that one, because if I'm trying to get the glimpses of the past, then I need to make sure I get all of them for the achievement. We've got the little flower shop here. I did a quick Google search on like what red and white flowers mean, but I know, because she's brought it up, that Cleo has a more in-depth analysis of the flowers referenced in this letter. Ms. Cassandra, a customer came in today. Ordered a mixed bouquet, red and white. I tried to explain it's bad luck, but he couldn't decide on just one. He seemed a bit off, looked at me like I wasn't even there. Then he just left, said he'd be back to pick him up later. I just wanted to let you know, since I might be gone by then. And we also, players who, like, I already have so much judgment in my voice. I shouldn't be judging, but it's frustrated me when I've seen that Let's Players play this and not realize that you can flip the notes over. Like, here, it's not a big deal, but later on, they basically, like, again, contextually try to tell you, hey, flip papers over, there's stuff on the back, and I guess it wasn't explicit enough because there are plenty of people who don't recognize that that's something that you can and sometimes need to do until much later in the game. Zoom. But yeah, a lot of these notes refer to, like this one refers to a man who wants to get the bouquet, and he seemed a bit off. And a lot of people theorize, oh, every time they reference a guy in these poems, especially in the first part, not poems, memos, especially in the first part of the game, maybe that's James. Maybe that's James on another loop through the game. Maybe it's, or maybe it's just someone who's supposed to suggest James and connect with him in some way. This is the thing about like storytelling in a game like Silent Hill, where there is a lot of intentional symbolism and intentional like weird fucked upness because of the supernatural nature of it. And so for every detail where it's like, oh, that could totally be there for a supernatural reason, it is James, you could also easily rationalize it as like, no, this may just be a detail that the writers put in there to echo James without it necessarily literally being him. I really like that you can kind of both interpretations work. Like there are some horror movies that handle the whole like, oh, is it real or is it just in the person's head? They handle that very clumsily. Others that handle it really well. And I think Silent Hill does a really good job of kind of having their cake and eating it too, where it's like, yeah, depending on the person, you might believe everything is James, and depending, or another person might believe like, nah, James is his own thing going on. These are all meant to be other people, or it's both. It can be so many things. Art is up to interpretation. Okay. Also, since it's going to be a while before we get there, especially at the pace that I'm going, I saw either you brought this up in one of our emails, Cleo, or I saw someone bring this up on Reddit. The red and white flowers are also referenced in the hotel. Like I think there's the flower shop is referenced in the hotel, and so there's like a suggestion of like, oh, that was a bug. That was a nasty little bug skittering across the ground. Lovely little detail that you could probably miss if you weren't looking. And if you missed it, just go back and watch the VOD once I either here on Twitch or once I upload it to YouTube. But yeah, the flower ad in the hotel almost suggests like, oh, maybe James saw that ad when he was in the hotel with Mary, and that's what compelled tells him to come here to get the flowers, and it's a callback and everything. It's just a lot of really cool little details. And then there's the moment that everyone is just like, James, really?
What is this?
It is blood, James. You know it's blood. Don't even try to not believe it's blood. Although, if we were to really think about it, maybe if we were in that position, we too would be like, uh, well, it looks a lot like blood, but maybe it's something else. Who was I watching? I think I was watching a YouTuber, Hollow, play this for the first time, and he was like, yeah, maybe it's not blood, maybe it's just like a flower juice. Maybe it's fertilizer that got like mixed in with something, and it's just, yeah, that's what it is. It's not blood. What are you talking about? Yeah, so Cleo is mentioning, yeah, it is, yeah, an ad on the wall for the flower shop. So it's not just flowers, it's literally a flower shop itself stuck in his mind. Alright. Again, I don't know that I'm going to find any other secret items this early on, because in the regular game, this is before you have your first weapon. And I think the only item you can get by breaking a window this early on in New Game Plus, when you have a weapon, is the Key of Sorrow for the Stillness ending. I also am interested in theorizing on why it's called the Stillness ending. I was looking at the poems for the Gallows puzzle, and I think there might be a clue there, in the same way that there's stuff in the hospital that references Bliss, and so I immediately made the connection to the Bliss ending. Oh, we've got more of just this this strange substance. What could it possibly be?
More of that stuff.
Yeah. It's easy to be like, James, you're dumb, it's blood, but I kind of... There is something to be said about, like, over-rationalizing story decisions, but I think it is, in this context, useful to think about it as, like, yeah, if I just walked into town and I saw something like that on the ground, I would try to be explaining it away as anything but blood. Yeah, it's stuff. And it's a way to kind of just be like, yeah, it's stuff. I'm not saying it's not blood, but I'm not saying it is blood. Who among us? Also, before I forget, like, first of all, I plan on going either till 9 or 10, or where there's a good stopping point. At this point, it's looking like we're probably going to be closer to 10. So what are the white barriers? Cleo asks. So, I, off the top of my head, do not have an in-depth story reason for the barriers. I think in the original game and in this one, it was a way to, like, obviously the mechanical reason is they don't want, the developers of the game don't want you going down certain paths. Later on in the game, it's because, oh, there are giant chasms in the ground, and so with a wall like this and some of the other ones we see, I think it is a way early in the game to fill that mechanical function of, we don't want the player going in this direction, but do it in a way that is less overtly like eldritch horror. Like, I've kind of looked at these and thought, like, oh, maybe there's like some construction going on the other side of this, or they've blocked off this part of town because there was like some yeah, construction is mainly where my brain goes. Yeah, because I really don't know what else it could be. Where are you going? Oh, Yeah, it does make it a little problematic when, as Cleo was mentioning, the developers say you can interact with items marked with white cloth. So can I interact with this whole fucking wall? Unfortunately, no. Yeah. So let's take a trip down Sanders Street and see, another wall of white cloth. Ha is right, James. Ha is right. Yeah, like, the only other thing I can think of besides construction is, like, quarantine, but at that point I'd be like, hey, maybe I really don't want to be in this town. Like, maybe there is some, like, friggin', like, illness or toxin spreading that somehow isn't able to flow over large walls of cloth. I don't know. Okay. Oh, I think I know where the glimpse is. I think it's in an alleyway around here somewhere before the one you need to go down to reach the, oh, Gonzalez. Also, that's a place I think I can interact with, even though we're not on the other side yet. Amount Yultair says, I may be stretching, know very little about Silent Hill, but thematically I wonder if it is meant to visually echo a wedding dress. Like in-game, I agree it reminds me of a construction site, but thematically, and Cleo says, I mean, since it's so much about his marriage, I wouldn't rule it out. Yeah, honestly, I think that's very much a possibility. I think definitely it's got that kind of flowing cloth nature. Now that's a strong window. It's able to hold up against a whole chainsaw. Gonzalez Mexican restaurant. Okay. So, at some point we're going to get the little cinematic for the first enemy, but I'm going to go in the opposite direction of it for as long as I can, just so I can try and find this glimpse of the past. It's right after the combat. Oh, it's right after the combat tutorial outside the fence. I thought it was before the combat tutorial. Okay. Well, that potentially makes things easier. I'm going to still explore around a little bit, make sure there aren't any alleys that I'm missing. Part of me wants to check that checklist I've got, and maybe I will do that since I'm not on the music overlay anymore. And it won't screw up this overlay. Okay. Here we go.
Hey, wait.
I mean, in both versions of the game, it would be so easy for them to have more fog there or make the character more silhouetted so it's more believable as to why James would be like, oh, that's a person. But I think part of it is that we as an audience member are supposed to kind of, it's almost like a, not dramatic irony, but it's a way to build tension. You as a player know, hey, that's not a person, James. We don't want to go in that direction. Okay. The one I missed is the Danger Zone glimpse before the tutorial. Okay, I think I might have missed the Danger Zone one as well, so... Yeah, that's what made me think about it. And stretching it even further, you could connect that. This is Mont-Yulter. Stretching it even further, you could connect that to how it's like a construction site, but a derelict one. It's a signifier of newness, hope, but turned dingy and dilapidated. Love the sound effects here. Yeah, the sound effects here are classic. I'm pretty sure these are ones from the original game. And Akira Yamaoka was not only the composer of the soundtrack for the original game, but also the sound designer. So a lot of this stuff is from the man himself. More of that stuff. James doesn't know he is in a horror game. Yeah, Cleo brought this up a bunch when she was doing her Hannibal TV show recaps back in the day, and my friend Theo and I were talking about it on our old podcast, A Matter of Taste. There's this whole thing of like characters in Dracula do not know that they are in Dracula, and so when people talk about Dracula, we as audience members are like, how do you not just burst into flames at the mere mention of Dracula? But the characters don't know that he's a vampire until they know. So okay. Amma? Okay. Amma with an M. Okay. I can do that. Thank you, Amma. And Tabacanova? Please let me know if I pronounce something wrong. James doesn't know he's an organ. Yeah, we were just talking about that. I was talking about it because you brought it up. Oh, you remember the podcast? Remind me of the... Yeah, it was a good time. Unfortunately, life gets in the way, as often it does. And also, I really, really hate having to edit stuff, which is why I'm streaming this rather than doing a YouTube video series. Because then I have an excuse for being lazy and not editing things. But yeah, for various reasons, we ended up stopping the podcast, but I still think back fondly of it, and I appreciate everyone who listened to that when we were still doing it. That was almost 10 years. That was 10 years ago now that Hannibal Season 3 aired, and I think we kept the podcast going for a couple years after that, but it was a lot less frequent. Okay. Cleo has so kindly pasted the location of the next glimpse. After the flower shop, and when James spots the monster in the fog, players need to follow to the right side of the road by Vax Road on their map, where there will be a do not enter sign on a metal gate, which activates a second glimpse of the past. I think that is exactly where I'm going right now. So I had an idea. Okay. I do not fully recall this moment from the game, but I'm sure it was in the original, otherwise they wouldn't have this here. Do not enter. Area closed off due to an accident. Trespassing might lead to injury or death. Oh, okay. I'm remembering something vaguely about this. Like, I think this is potentially, like, area closed off due to an accident. Trespassing might lead to injury or death. I think this might be suggesting, like, if this is a way down to the waterfront, or... For some reason my brain is saying, like, oh, this is supposed to be a reference to James potentially killing himself in his car, but maybe I'm making that up. That's the thing I was thinking about today, too, is, like, I have a lot of things to say about this game and the music, and I have done a lot of research or had lots of conversations about it, but I will never claim to be the be-all, end-all authority about stuff. There's always a chance that I have misread something somewhere, or that I just misspeak and mean to say one thing that is correct and then accidentally say the incorrect thing. So I hope you will forgive me if those situations happen.
What happened to this town?
And here's our first sign that, hey, James, this is a little bit more than just, like, maybe a construction issue or something. This is bad, and I really love in the remake how like you see it on a structural level, like these buildings leading over into these chasms. It's so friggin' good, so eerie, so creepy. Remind me of says, speaking of genre savvy, I love how it was Chilton of all people who figured out he was in a show about cannibalism. Yeah, the fact that Chilton is like the first person after, I think it's after Will, to figure out, oh no, Hannibal is a cannibal, but I can't say anything or else he'll probably eat me. The incredible Raul Esparza as Chilton in the Hannibal TV show is just phenomenal. I'm probably due for a rewatch of that show. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. It is 9 o'clock. We're going to keep going. I'm probably going to go till 10 o'clock because there was a lot of preamble. That is not going to be on the recording I upload to YouTube because I forgot to hit the start recording button until right before I started the first cinematic. So thankfully, I've got that. But I don't have any of the stuff about, like, hey, spoilers. But it'll be in the name of the video. It'll be in the description. We don't need all the preamble, potentially. Another just like cool little bits of detail in this environment that make it feel lived in and real. Okay. Frame rates. Noises. Oh yeah. Chilton figured it out? Oh, that's a low point. That one hurts. Yeah, one can only imagine Hannibal's pride just being totally shattered by the fact that Chilton figured out he's a cannibal. Or there may be an actual moment from the show where you kind of get that vibe. Again, it's been a while since I watched the show. Okay, where is... So, Cleo, you were saying the dead body glimpse is after the first combat. And we've got our noises, more blood. Let's not push. Oh!
Hello?
Yeah, James, I don't think that's someone who can respond because they don't have a mouth. Sound design in this game is incredible. It was in the original and it is in the remake. Okay. We are getting closer to our first combat. Hopefully my frame rate doesn't completely shit the bed when we get there. This is a mature stream already because of the game we're playing, so I have no qualms about cursing. If anyone does, sorry. Look around to find objects marked by white cloth. Those are objects or traversals you can interact with. Thank you for your directions, Cleo. I really appreciate it. It means I have to mess around with my windows less. Let's see how many broken glass things I can rack up for the stat screen at the end. Okay. Ugh. Do I have to crawl through? That is, like, I don't mind that they changed it for the remake, but there are those few moments in the original game where you would interact with something and it would be like, will you reach into the hole or will you jump down the hole, yes or no? And there's just something so, like, pulp horror ominous about that, whereas in the remake you get like, oh, you come up to the side of the hole and then you have to hit X a few times, which is still cool, but there is something, there's a certain charm to will you jump down the hole, especially the thing I love about it is it's in situations where it's like, well, I can't progress the game if I don't jump down the hole, so of course the answer is yes, but the fact that it gives you the option to say no, almost knowing that the player will be like, oh, but do I really want to?
Or maybe they're just like, hey, we've reached one of those points of no return, like the one we just reached. Are you sure you want to jump down, or are there things that you want to explore before you get there? Got another save point. Okay, I'm going to try to turn the radio off as soon as possible. Because I want that achievement. I spent 99% of the game without the radio on my last playthrough, and then I didn't get the achievement at the end, and I was so frustrated. And honestly, like, even with the old games, there is kind of a double-edged sword to the radio where, yeah, it lets you know when the monsters are showing up, but oftentimes it just scares you even more because of that. So sometimes it's easier to play the game with the radio turned off, because then you aren't like, out around every corner. We're getting our first health drink. The rotate button in the remake, like, I appreciate that they went with a very naturalistic, oh, he's actually got it in its hand rather than spinning it 360 around in the air like you have with a lot of contemporary adventure games. But it is a little, like, with the limited range that you get from the rotate, it's almost like, is it even worth it? It's fine. This is all fine. Yeah, hit that button to use health drink. This is the only time I have successfully given anyone directions. You're welcome. Thank you, Cleo. And we can hear the radio in its natural habitat. Let's see if we can sneak up on it and turn it off so that Ian can get an achievement that he hasn't gotten yet. Oh, that noise right now in the soundtrack, that, like, higher pitched noise, he's used that on the soundtrack of several of these games, and I'm like, it's just, like, off enough to, like, make it feel like it's wheedling into your brain. I don't see anything over here. Radio. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make the joke that every Silent Hill fan makes when they get to this point in a Silent Hill game. Radio. What's going on with that radio? Because that's what Harry says in the original Silent Hill. Oh, come on, frame rate. Please. Not now. We're about to go into a cinematic. Please don't do this to me. Come on. Okay. Do I have to... Hold on. Can I hit inventory now? See, I can't hit inventory, so what do I do then? After the cutscene? It's gotta be after the cutscene. This is our first creature, the lying figure. Or armless, as it's sometimes referred to. And our first weapon, the trusty 2x4 with nails in it.
Stay back.
Okay. Key items. Or not key items, this is equipment. Turn off. We are turning it off. We are getting this damn achievement if it kills me. Fun little bit of trivia about this creature. Oh, frame rates! Dodge. Dodge. I got vomited on. Come on. Catch up, game. Catch up. Okay.
Is this what I saw in the fog?
Yes, James.
Whatever it is, it's not human.
There you go. You're catching up now. Yeah, fun little bit of trivia about the armless figure, or the lying figure. If you watch there's some behind-the-scenes video from the original Silent Hill 2 where I think it's Masahiro Ito, the creature designer, talks about where the design for the lying figure came from, beyond just the symbolism. Um, but he talks about how like he was sitting at the office for working on something with the game, and he saw like a friend of his coming down the office aisle towards him with he had headphones on, he had like a Walkman or something, and he was listening to music, and he had his hands in his pocket and his arms kind of out like that, and he was just like bopping and weaving to the music. And Masahiro Ito, genius that he is, looks at that movement and is like, that could be a really disturbing creature to throw at players. And that is what spurred the idea for the lying figure. Of course, there are symbolic things associated with it, like the fact that it looks almost like a straitjacket, or like I think people have talked about it being a little bit like the laces on a corset or something like that. And then everyone comments on how it's got these like sick pumps that it's walking around with. A lot of imagery that evokes certain like feminine things, or in the case of straitjacket, like mentally unwell things. And there are a lot of ways to interpret that. Like a lot of the more sexualized energy of the creatures, people will link to perhaps some repressed feelings that James had while Mary was in the hospital. Maybe he had a wandering eye. Maybe he was thinking about other women. I think Masahiro Ito is on record as saying, or maybe it's not Masahiro Ito. It might be I can't remember the name of the director of the original game. I think you sent me this quote, Cleo, in one of our emails where the director of the original game talked about how part of the reason that there is kind of this vague sexual imagery throughout the game, like there are potentially symbolic reasons, but also it's a way to unsettle the player. A lot of the creative aesthetic design of this game, of the original Silent Hill games, from the visuals to the music, is figuring out ways to unsettle the player. Like I was talking about before with Promise, we started with something that was very familiar sounding, and now we've got all this weird dissonance, weird noises, stuff that's kind of music but not, industrial tones. And visually we have, oh, this is a monster, but it's also like got shoes and like an ass and not this. I don't like this thing, and it's yeah, it's playing around with like the uncanny valley and all that sort of stuff. Um, so yeah, take what you will from that. Right. So okay, yeah, we've got a little bit further to go. I got a little bit hurt. You can actually see on James's jacket that it's bloodier. Like if I drink a health drink right now, and I will when we're in better lighting so that you can see. Yeah, the Sex and Death quote, can't remember who said it either. But then also, vomit. Because who doesn't love a bit of vomit in their horror? Yeah, so even though I don't have the red vignette coming up on screen every time James gets hurt, I have two things that can let me know how, or three things actually, that can let me know how close James is to death. One is the controller I'm using actually lights up on the back here. It right now it's green because he's pretty okay, but as the game goes on, as he gets more damage, that will turn to yellow and orange and then red. The controller will also vibrate. That's a pretty common thing. But there is also this visual element of, hey, you can see on James's back, his jacket's gotten a little bloody. If I drink the health drink, there goes the blood. We're fine. Over here we've got the syringe. Health drinks are more of like we gotta talk about this, James. You can't just be sticking rusty syringes into you. You got a problem, man. um, I love the fact that it's just like they go out of their way to make the syringe look like something that you should never ever ever put in your body, regardless of where you are on the spectrum when it comes to needles. um, and it kind of lends itself to this whole dream-like atmosphere of like, you know what? Yeah, I just got hurt by a monster, so I'm gonna stick this rusty syringe in my arm, and I'm gonna feel better. Maybe James is dead the whole time. Maybe he is just wandering through purgatory because there's no reason that that should work. Um, yeah, health drinks are lighter health potion type things, and then syringes will give you a full heal. Okay, so now we're at the window. Radio is still off, but it'll probably still do the cinematic properly. I'll double check after the cinematic to make sure that it is fully off. But yeah, again, we're doing the full spoiler stream, so going into this cutscene, I'm gonna say that there is a moment, like there's a lot of. I mean, he's probably dead after 5 to 6 of those bad boys. Yeah, Cleo. We're drinking these random health drinks we found in the street, so yeah, remind me of the. But yeah, crap, what was I talking about? The radio. Oh, so when we step out through this window, a cutscene's gonna happen where the radio turns on and a voice that sounds like potentially Mary's starts coming through it. There is actual dialogue recorded for all of those lines, but you only hear bits and pieces of it because of the static. They show some of the letters in the subtitles, and there is actually a place, and this is in the original as well, where Mary says, "Why did you kill me?" You can't hear it, and you don't get the entire words, but you see the like dot 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 IDUK dot dot dot. And I'm always wondering for people who don't know the story when they first see that scene. I mean, I didn't that was a part of the game I wasn't spoiled on. Like when that was before I got spoiled on the ending. Um, it to me it's so wild and bold faced. Like they're so confident that there's no way the player could figure out the twist at this point in the game that they almost tell you right at the beginning of the game, hey, James killed her. um, Oak Edge Meadow 31, did you play Alan Wake 2? I have not yet played Alan Wake 2. I've played the original Alan Wake and I played a little of Control. I may play Alan Wake 2 after this, and I have not been spoiled on that game yet, so please be kind. Do not spoil me on any of that. I am looking forward to playing it, but I do plan on playing it because I've heard many good things about it. I had a few issues with the original game, mainly the fact that it didn't have a proper ending, but I've heard that the second game kind of resolves that, so I'm looking forward to it. Anyway. Here we go. Yeah, I think even that's supposed to be, I think, come to Lakeside. Yeah, you hear her say Lakeside a little bit. I'm waiting for you. Why did you kill me? James. I'll double check to make sure the radio is still off. It is still off. Hopefully I get this friggin' achievement. Mary saying James in this game could be the equivalent of Scott and Logan in the X-Men TV series going, Gene! James! James.
Where are you, Mary?
Bella. Edward. Jacob. I still love that video. Yes, we got our glimpse coming up. Where did you say it was? It was, like just to the right or something? Okay, first we're gonna crack through this. This was a little Easter egg that people were picking out from the first gameplay trailer. Like, all of the license plates in this game have some sort of reference to something. Like this one, I think, is Matthew 12:8 or something like that. It's supposed to be a reference to the book of Matthew, verse 12, like chapter 12, verse 8. I can't remember what that is off the top of my head, but like there are a bunch of other license plates that I'm pretty sure they may all be references. Ah, yes, this is where the glimpse is. Thank you, Cleo. Thank you so much for your help. Really appreciate it. So yeah, in the original game, there was a body here that was the first body you find. That it's like, hey, does that body look kind of like Does that body look a little like James? Because it looks a little like James. Here they have left the blood splatter from where that body was, and a note. It seems. Let's see what that note says. Can I not read the note? Oh no. Victory! Now we just gotta catch all the rest of the glimpses. And the photos. I haven't gotten all the photos. Again, if I'm trying to get all the achievements, and do commentary, this is gonna be a long playthrough. So maybe I will make every effort to get all of them, but I won't make every effort, if you know what I'm saying. Like, if I miss something, it's not the end of the world. I suppose I can always go back to a save point, but I don't want to make this any longer than it has to be. And I want to keep things interesting for the audience as well.
Is that?
Yes, James. Oh, no, you're looking at that. That's what you're talking about. So this actually, they might have, I think what this might be suggesting, maybe, is that maybe the body over there got up and stumbled over here, or maybe it's just another James body. Cleo says, I have this entire ridiculous outline with instructions to get these. Do not turn right yet. So yeah, a little bit of environmental storytelling here. Looks like this James body got hit by something, stumbled over here, and then fell to the ground here. And left us a note. Or the Neely's bar matchbook, at least. Another item to point us in a particular direction. And there's the animation for when he finds an item and writes on the map. It's so cool. So yeah, he circled Neely's bar. I'm thinking I might end at Neely's bar tonight. It's 9:23. We've been playing for a bit, and Neely's bar would be a good place to like save, and the next session start off with the puzzle that you need to find for Neely's bar, and then we'll get to talk about the Magdalene theme or the Mary theme, whatever way you want to call it. God, it looks good, yeah. And here's that note, the infamous note I was talking about earlier. If you're reading this, leave. This place is not what it seems. Sometimes you just have to look behind. And what that's trying, I think the developer's intent behind this note is, hey, sometimes you just have to look behind, as in the other side of the note. Run away, run away, run away, run away. Oh, one of the things I was going to bring up here. With all of the corpses that look like James, I think there are a few different interpretations you can go with this. One is they are all actually James, and that kind of lends itself to the time loop theory of like, oh, these are versions of James that did not make it to the end of their playthrough and are now just here as warnings or signs or messages, whatever. Um, the out-of-game reason a lot of the corpses look like James is partly the developers were like, hey, we could create a bunch of individual corpses, or we could just reuse the James model and also have it be a very creepy thing. I don't think it was complete and utter like laziness or anything like that, but there is a benefit to not having to literally reinvent the wheel, as it were. Just keep using that same wheel again. Oh, hey there. Oh, hi, lying figure. Yeah, there are a lot of scripted scares that at this point are probably not going to get too much of a response out of me, except what I just did. And then there are other ones that are unscripted that will probably freak me the hell out. Lem 3223. I mean, it's not Lamentations, because then it would be an A. So maybe it's referring to something else. Save here. Yeah, you're planning on breaking up Neely's as well. It's a good pivot point, and I'm sure the developers thought of it that way as well. So now we are into Silent Hill proper, where creatures abound. Where is Neely's? So playing this as if I'm James, I'm gonna be like, hey, this will take me to Neely's. Oh, no, there is a thing in the way. Ah, creature of the night. Stomp it out. This, I still don't know if there's any extra significance. Also, creature. I heard you trying to get in here. And stay down. I don't know if there's meant to be any additional like significance to this bloody laundry bag other than, hey, probably a body in there. Maybe it's supposed to suggest like Mary in a body bag. I don't know. Or it's just there to be creepy. There is an element to these games that's like maybe a cigar is just a cigar. That I always try to be mindful of. Also, let me know if I need to turn up the brightness at all. I think this particular monitor of mine that I'm playing on is kind of dark. Ah, super strong, super clean. Wash away the stains of yesterday. So many double meanings. Oh, Cleo is saying that this is meant to be James's jacket in the laundry here. No, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you can't see a bit of a sleeve. Interesting. More dead James. Oh, yeah, so that was the other thing I was going to say about the James corpses is one interpretation is they're all actually James and this is a time loop or something. Another interpretation that I started thinking about is maybe they are the bodies of other people who are not James, but because we are seeing James's version of Silent Hill, they all look like James to him because he's in this very liminal space of like, I'm very close to death, maybe I want to die, maybe like this is punishment, like whatever reason you want to come up with for why James would see an abundance of corpses of himself, that is another potential explanation for why all of the corpses look like him. Because not everyone sees the same Silent Hill, as you'll come to learn. Another cool thing here is bookstore, which I don't even know if you have access to on a first playthrough, but in New Game Plus has these 3 books that actually tell you how to get the main 3 endings of the game. So this one I am going to bring up the thing for. Let's start with Volume 1. Where is Volume 1? And we'll look at that article afterwards. This is Volume 2. Volume 1 is probably around here somewhere. Aha. Volume 1. Searching for Another Conclusion. Volume 1. The Road to Tomorrow. It's better to prevent than to cure, as the old maxim tells us. Taking care of yourself and maintaining a healthy outlook can be a challenge in these fast, modern times. The key is to not beat yourself up over past mistakes and avoid those who would do you harm. Sometimes, it is better to avoid confrontation instead of engaging in pointless conflict. Try to stay clear of toxic relationships and focus instead on your friends and loved ones. Keep your eyes on the prize and focus on what really matters. Can it be that simple? Yes! Look to the future. It might be brighter than you think. So basically it's saying, this is telling you in its own diegetic way, diegetic in world, if you want to get the Leave ending, which ends with James leaving town with Laura, you want to avoid being at low health. You want to avoid confrontation. Don't kill as many creatures. Stay clear of toxic relationships. Do not indulge in the fantasy of Maria, the doppelganger of Mary that we will meet later in the game. Keep your eyes on the prize and focus on what really matters. Just focus on, I'm a guy looking for my wife. This woman looks like her, but she's not my actual wife. Get out of here. And yeah, it leads to what in many ways is the most, depending on how you think about it, the most optimistic ending. Or the one that feels least sad. Again, I think all of the ending, one of the things I love about this game is all of them work as satisfying conclusions to the story. Yes, even like the Bliss ending. Maybe the joke endings, not so much, but yeah, I think for some people the Leave ending is like, no, this is a very positive ending, and other people, not so much. And that's fine. It's fine. So here's Volume 2. Searching for Another Conclusion. Volume 2. Getting the Girl. Do you love her? Do you really love her? In sickness and in health? Words are simple enough, but actions speak the loudest. Would you protect her? Fight for her? Put her above any other? Remember, now she is the one. Leave the past behind and forget about old relationships that ended in tears. Be true to your heart, and with luck, things will work out in the end. So this is telling you how to get the Maria ending. As I mentioned, there's a character named Maria that you meet later in the game who is a doppelganger of James's wife, Mary. And there are a lot of things to say about her and what she is that I'll probably leave till then, just to, again, cut down on time. We've been playing for 2.5 hours. But suffice to say, I'll talk a little bit about what she is. She is a creation of the town. She is a manifestation, the same way that all of the creatures in town are a manifestation. Specifically, a manifestation of James' broken psyche. Like, all the creatures in this town represent something about the story and James's psychology. The armless figure could be referring to Mary's sickness. Remind me of this said, "Oh, so this is how you solve the problem of Maria." Very good. Love a good Sound of Music reference. Um, but yeah, so Maria, it's really interesting to think about. Like, she is kind of another monster in the game. She's this, I think, yeah, she is almost this like simulacrum, or I don't know if I'm using that term correctly, but she is a very interesting character, and they have done some really interesting things with her in the remake in particular. So that'll be really fun to talk about, and I know Cleo has a lot of really awesome stuff to talk about. She's been in the chat the whole evening, and I feel like I keep forgetting to mention she is going to be doing her own video commentary that she's going to be uploading to YouTube. She's already talked about it a little bit on her Tumblr. If you search for Cleolinda Jones, you will find her stuff. She's on Tumblr and Blue Sky, and now on YouTube, where she's going to be uploading videos. So definitely check out her stuff, because I probably wouldn't be doing this right now if she hadn't encouraged me to. I might have been, but I might not have done it as soon, and I definitely wouldn't have felt as confident, because I wouldn't have had so much of the back and forth that she and I have had over the past month or so now, talking about the game and sorting out our thoughts on it. So everyone give a hand to Cleo. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for nerding out on this game in a way that I haven't really gotten to with anyone in the 20 years since I first played it. So yeah, this memo is talking about how to get the Maria ending. Actions speak loudest. Would you protect her? Make sure that once you do meet Maria, you are defending her and not letting her get hurt too much. Fight for her, put her above any other. Basically, it's saying like, hey, if you want the Maria ending, you gotta forget about Mary and do everything James would do to hold Maria in the highest regard over Mary. Anything else here? Leave the past behind and forget about old relationships that ended in tears. Yeah, old relationships that ended in tears. Mary, she died. Forget about her. Be true to your heart, and with luck, things will work out in the end. Yeah, more on Maria later. And then Volume 3. Searching for another conclusion, Volume 3. Choosing death. Really light topic, really light way to start off. When life is filled with nothing but despair, some people choose to end it all. This is the thing that, like, is... I remember reading this the first time now, and how fucking creepy this is. When life is filled with nothing but despair, some people choose to end it all. Okay. I once chose that path for myself as well. I embraced it. It felt right, like the only choice I could possibly make. After I made my decision, it became the only thing binding me to this world. What the fuck does that mean? I became reckless. I did stupid, dangerous things. I pushed away even those who cared about me. After all, why would it matter anymore? The sort of like diegetic story this almost feels like it's telling is like, yeah, the person who wrote this book chose to kill themselves. And then after they did that, it became the only thing binding me to this world. That to me is really, really interesting, especially in the context of the idea that maybe this is a loop. Maybe the Stillness ending is a sequel to In Water. It's really fascinating. But yeah, to talk more specifically about how you get the In Water ending, I became reckless. I did stupid, dangerous things. For the In Water ending, you want to keep James at low health for I think initially I heard like at least 10 minutes, but then I think Cleo looked it up today, and it was like at least 30 seconds, or like a minute and 10 seconds or something. Basically, you don't want to care about healing James too much, and you also don't want to care about Maria at all when you get her. All that matters to James is this ending it all, essentially, feeling like his life isn't worth living anymore. Um, and we can talk more about that stuff when we get further in the game. 100 seconds, yeah. You only have to be damaged for like in the low red. Like if I had the vignette up, it would have to be with like the plus sign showing, I think, um, to get a point towards the in water ending. And this is another thing that I appreciate so much about this game, is the nuance it takes when it comes to getting the different endings. It isn't simple vector points of like, oh, do this instead of this, do this instead of this. It's a bunch of stuff that kind of builds up in a variety of ways. I contrast that with Silent Hill Homecoming, which I have some affection for, but stumbles in a few key ways. And I think one of the ways is the vector points it uses for its various endings are they're kind of obvious. And it's not even obvious in a bad way. Like, there are plenty of games that do the same thing and it's fine. But when compared to something like this, it is interesting to look at how this is doing it in ways that can be, like the way that you contribute to the different endings is a lot harder to game in terms of gaming the system, unless you're doing one of the endings where it's just like, oh, find these specific items. And so to me, I feel like that lends itself to a pure narrative experience. Because on top of that, the game doesn't, aside from this, which you get in New Game Plus, on a first playthrough, the game doesn't tell you that it is reading any of those things. Unless you knew going into the game, you might not even know that there are multiple endings. And you definitely wouldn't know how to get them. So it's one of the things I really like about this game. And I had another interesting conversation with a friend at work, that friend I was talking about before, a guy named Jordan, where he was like, I don't know how I feel about that, because as a gamer, I feel like I would like to know, if I wanted to get a particular ending, I would like to know how to get it. Yeah, I think it's a difference in what you want to get out of a game. Me, I'm always looking for that immersive narrative experience. This whole playthrough currently is kind of the opposite of that, but it's for a specific reason. We're digging into... One of the reasons I wanted to do a playthrough like this is because I'm always a huge fan of behind-the-scenes stuff and how things get made. Because from a very young age, when I decided I wanted to get into the arts through writing and music and stuff, I have always seen the way that the arts can get romanticized, and people can be like, oh, it's this magic trick, and like, yes, there is something beautiful and magical about art, but I hate it when people use that as a way to like gatekeep the arts. And also, if someone wants to become an artist, it can be very daunting to look at something like this and think like, how did they even come up with that? I could never come up with that. But if you watch the behind the scenes stuff and you learn the trivia and all that stuff, you learn like, oh, the people who made this are just people. I'm just a person. I can do this too. And I'm always about encouraging people to get into creative stuff, into the arts. And so that's part of why, like, with my music, I've done like listening parties where I talk about the writing behind a song I wrote, and playing games like this. I really like digging into the background material. I don't think you need to do that to appreciate a work of art, but for me, I really appreciate knowing it because it lets me know so much more about the people who made a thing, and there's so much I can learn from that as an artist myself. So there's my little soapbox moment. I know there are a couple things I missed in chat. Like, I've been enjoying Cleo's stuff for so long, like going on 20 years long. I think she's same. Remind me of the. I think the first thing of Cleo's I read was one of her movies in 15 minutes, which I won't say which one because I know as a writer you probably have certain things where it's like whatever. I still love all the stuff you've written, but I won't dig too deep into it. But it was one of the movies in 15 minutes about a movie that came out in like 2005, a very famous franchise, I'll say. I'll leave it at that. And I think that was what led me to Cleo's blog initially, and then I've been following her blog and stuff ever since. And now we're sending emails to each other where we talk about Silent Hill for into the wee hours of the night. At least for me, I'm writing these typically at night and not keeping track of the time. Anyway, I think it was wise of me to say we were going to end at Neely's bar, because it is taking us, like, I'm taking the longest route to get there. And most of that is because of what I'm getting into verbally, not because of the gameplay. Yeah, 100 seconds. I've stumbled around that long just looking for a drink. Since I'm going for the Stillness ending that just requires a few specific items, I don't need to be concerned about the health stuff or the killing monster stuff. Play to my heart's content. Bash monsters' heads in to my heart's content. Right. Another thing I'll do while we're here, actually. Cleo, I feel like you have the combat down to a science, because you, like, I'm so, like, undisciplined with so much of this stuff. That's what I was going to do. I was going to go to Woodside Apartments, because there's another puzzle that is kind of it's kind of done in tandem with the Neely's bar stuff, so I might as well. So in the original game, when you got to this point, like in the opening cinematic where James is talking about this whole town was our special place. What could she mean? I think he says right at the beginning of the game, could she mean the park by the lake? And so the logic in that in the original was like, oh, the player's going to do everything they can to try to get to Rosewater Park. It's already circled on their map, and so we'll expect them to take the shortest route to that, block off in certain ways to funnel them towards like the apartments, and see that they have to do to find a key to get in there. Trying to sneak up on me from underneath a car. I turned off the... Yeah, it's still off. For some reason I thought I just heard the static. Better not be getting the static. So yeah, if you come here... Another thing, like, Cleo will talk a lot about how well this game is designed just on a, like, learning to play level. We gotta leave. Meet me there. So, this is telling you, hey, there's something in Texan Cafe that you gotta get. And so it's like, whichever direction you go in town, if you find one thing before another, there's usually a clue to tell you where to go next. contacts are starting to dry out. I usually take my contacts out around 9. Aha! What are they? I shouldn't go through. I don't know why I won't. They don't stink, but it feels like they do. No smell at all. Yeah, and this is a note that doesn't really tell you to do anything. It's just a creepy note next to another creepy corpse. Oh, fuck you. That one got me a little bit. Yeah, now I'm not a mimic. I will talk to you later. But what is this? Is another? Oh yeah, the door that wakes in darkness, opening into nightmares. Wait, isn't that typically revealed? Is it not revealed in New Game Plus? Yeah, that's also what that note was referring to when it says, what does it say? I shouldn't go through. I don't know why I won't. I shouldn't go through. I don't know why. I won't. I think that's probably more the, yeah, that's more the cadence that it's meant to be read in. Whoever was here saw that door and was like, nah, that door is creepy. I'm not going to go through. Somewhere else. What's somewhere else? Oh, this is where the door initially was. That's such a weird, like, move. Because I was pretty sure it is here, and then when it turns to the otherworld town, you see it again. But I guess they must have moved it somewhere else for the progression of the game. Yeah. Okay. It is 9:52. Let's get to Neely's bar and save the game and end our stream. Thank you everyone so much for hanging out for the stream for 3 friggin' hours. I will try to get the VOD of this up on YouTube sooner rather than later. Hopefully it's just a matter of... I had planned on cutting a lot of the opening preamble anyway, and the fact that I forgot to start the recording until the game kind of saves me the trouble. But I may just try to upload that to YouTube immediately after the stream is over, or I might do it tomorrow. We'll see. Neely's bar. Turning right. Never be ashamed of using the map in this game. Everyone opens it a billion times. I think there's an achievement associated with it too. But yeah, if you've enjoyed the stream, I will not be streaming next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday I'll be picking up with the next leg of the journey. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Blue Sky or Tumblr. Tumblr is probably the best place to ask questions because they have the ask function there. I also have my website, ian-doherty.com, where you can find all of my stuff. You can find my music, which I'm really proud of, and would love it if people dropped in to listen to. I might start doing the music streams here again. My band, Mosaic Mind, we are actually thinking about starting to stream a little bit. What else should I say? If you are in the Central New York area, I will be playing at Heritage Hill North in North Syracuse, New York, from 6 to 9 on Friday, February 28th. There are a few friends of mine in chat that I'm sure will be able to make it to that. If you are a Central New Yorker who is in the area and I didn't already know, feel free to stop by, and please let me know up front if you learned about me from the stream.
I like to think I am a friendly person, but also I am. I don't think I scare too easily. I've been performing it long enough, but in any case, feel free to reach out to me on social media if you have questions or there's something you want to hear me talk about in the stream. Next session, we'll be checking out whatever that is over there. Oh, we gotta look at this since it's here. There was a hole here. It's gone now. We can talk more about that next time. So many things to talk about. We'll pick up that note next time. So many things we'll do next time. But yeah, I will be streaming this again in 2 weeks. So that'll be Wednesday, February... Oh no, that's going to be March. February has blown by. Wednesday, March 5th. I'll be right back here at 7 p.m. Eastern with the next leg of the game. Hope to see you all there. Gonna go save this game and then we'll close the stream. Thank you again so much, everyone, for hanging out, chatting. Save this. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves. And thanks again. I'll see you next time.